Good morning, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Thank you again for coming back and sharing your time with me. I appreciate that. Uh, so today is March 29th, 2022. Thank you for coming back. So I will share some news with you. I will start with Amhara region President comment on the Amhara Region Conference General Assembly for the questions presented to him from the conference attendees. So this conference is in Amharic, and in general sense, the president, the Amhara region, Kafaleo, Dr. Kafaleo, I think, he is talking about the challenges the Amharas are facing, in Ethiopia, and the causes of these challenges, and also his suggestion, a solution for the problems. So he is, in a reconciliatory terms, and a better way to deal with it. So instead of continuing the cross-border attack by Amhara militia, Bafano, and other activists, he is telling them to slow down, find a better solution for Amharas. This, the one happened now and before, didn't bring stability, peace for the Amhara people. So he is advocating a better strategy. So that better strategy, if you understand Amharic, you will get it. If not, I will tell it just in a simple way. Instead of being aggressive to defend only the Amhara's interest, just by confrontation, or by just crossing into the borders of other regions to defend Amharas, the Amharas must change the strategy. He is suggesting to work with the regional government, to support the regional government. For example, in the fight against Oromo Liberation Army, what the government call it Onak Shene. But the Oromo people support these freedom fighters. They consider them as part and parcels of them, but the Amharas and the federal government in Ethiopia call them Onak Shene and do everything to dismantle them. But despite all the challenges, all the propaganda, this group is doing, incredible job, and it's a commendable force at this time. They are everywhere. They are everywhere. They are even around the capital city. They are not too far. They are graduating new recruits, and the Prosperity Party security force also joining them. Those who don't like the policy of the Prime Minister, don't want to fight against their own brothers, they are joining them in a large number. So now the Amharas are saying, let's join the Oromo region president, the Oromo Region Prosperity Party, and fight against Oromo Liberation Army instead of just doing our dirty jobs, crossing into the border, attacking the civilians, burning the civilian properties. So let's join the regional forces in Benishangul, in Oromia, in Afar, in other areas, and let's support them. This way, he say, the better way. This is the best strategy to defend the Amhara freedom and the peace and the stability in that country. So let's listen to it just for a few minutes, then I will go to the other news. Thank you again for joining me.
የአማራ ህዝብ ችግር በዚህ መንገድ መጥቶ ከፈነዳ በኋላ መውጫ መንገዱ ምንድነው በሚለው ላይ የተከበራችሁ ምክር ቤት አባላት በጋራ ግንዛቤ ይዘን ተረዳርተን በመውጫ መንገዱ ላይ በማተኮር ይሄ ህዝብ ማህበራዊ ረፍት እንዲያገኝ መስራት አለብን። ሰላም እንዲያገኝ መስራት አለብን። ከሌሎች ወንድም እህት ማህበረሰብ ጋር እንደነበረው እጅና ጓንት ሆኖ የሚቀጥልበትን አሰራር ማበጀት አለብን። የተጋመድነ ማህበረሰቦች ከሆነ ያን ገመድ የምንቆርጥ እና አሁን የተፈጠረ ችግር ላይ ነዳጅ የነሰነስነ እንዳይጠፋ የምናደርግ መሆን የለብን። እንደዚህ ካረግነ ችግሩ እንዲባባስ ከማድረግ ውጭ የአማራን ህዝብ ሰላም ደህንነት ማረጋገጥ አንችልም። አንዳንድ ጊዜ ችግሩን በማጉላት በማጮህ ከሌላው ህዝብ ተነጥሎ ችግሩ እንዳይደመጥ እንዳይመለስ ምናረግ ከሆነ ችግሩ የት ላይ ነው ያለው ብለን መመርመር አለብን። ብዙ ነው የጮህን፣ ብዙ ነው የተናገርን፣ ብዙ ነው የቀሰቀስን። ግን ለአማራ ህዝብ እስካሁን አንድ ጠብ የሚል መፍትሄ አላገኘም። አንድ ጠብ የሚል መፍትሄ።
So he just in general concluding that whatever effort the FANO, the Amhara militia and the Amhara Prosperity Party, all they didn't bring any peace and stability for the Amhara people.
የአማራ ህዝብ ከሌሎች ህዝቦች ጋር ተጋምዶ የሚኖርበትን ስልትና ዘዴ ቀይሰን ማንናገረው በሚለው ላይ ማተኮር የሚሻል ይመስለኛል። እኔ መቦሳቀል እስካሁን ይበቃዋል። አሁን በሰመኑ ውይይት አዳማ ላይ የተከበሩ አቶ ግርማ ነበሩ። ሻሸመኔ ላይ የተከበሩ አቶ መላኩ ነበሩ። ወልቂጤ ላይ የተከበሩ ዶክተር ጌታቸው፣ ቦንጋ ላይ የተከበሩ ዶክተር ሰማ ነበሩ። ሐዋሳ ላይ የተከበሩ ወይዘሮ አይን አለም ነበሩ። በዚያ ላይ የነበረው የህዝብ ስሜት እና ድባብ የተለየ እንደነበረ ነው መረጃው የሚያሳየው። ጥፋቱ እኛ በማጮህ በማደናገር ነው ህዝቡን እየለያየነ ያስመታነው ያፈናቀለው ያለነ።
So he is blaming, the Amharas now for the cause of the displacement of the Amharas.
በዚህ መንገድ ህዝባችን ተቦሳቅሎ ከደረሰ በኋላ እስቲ ሌላ ዘዴ መፍትሄው ምንድነው ብለን እስቲ እንየው። አሁን የተጀመሩ ጅምሮች ከቤኒሻንጉል ጉሙዝ ጋር እጅግ በጣም መልካም የሚባል ግንኙነት ልክ አማራ ህዝብ ለአማራ ህዝብ የሚቆረቆር ከሆነ እዚያ ላለው ቤኒሻንጉል መንግስት ደግሞ ለማንኛውም ዜጋ የሚቆረቆር መንግስት ሆኖ እየሰራ መሆኑን በየጊዜው ያረጋገጠ ነው። አቅም ሲያጥር እኮ የኛ ልዩ ኃይል ይግባ ተብሏል። አቅም ሲያጥር የህዝቦችን አንድነት የሚሸረሽር ብሔር ተኮር ጥቃት የሚያደርሰውን በጋራ እንመክት እንዋጋ ተብሏል እኮ። በዚህ መንገድ እየሰራን ነው። ይሄን አድንቀን መሄድ አለብን። ይሄን አድንቀን ችግሩን በጋራ እንድንፈታ ነው መዘጋጀት ያለብን። ከኦሮሚያ ብሔራዊ ክልላዊ መንግስት ጋር ባህር ዳር ላይ ተወያይተናል። የተወሰኑ የአመራር አባላት ነበሩ። አዲስ አበባ ተወያይተናል። እውነት ለመናገር ኦሮሚያ ላይ የተፈናቀሉ ማናቸው ኦሮሞም ይሁን አማራ ሌላም ይሁን የማንም አይደሉ መጀመሪያ የኔ ናቸው ብሎ ነው የገለጸው። ስለዚህ እነሱ ከተፈናቀሉ ባለቤቱ እኔ ነኝ፣ ቦታው በሸኔ ቢያዝ እንኳን ከሌላ ሰላማዊ ከሆነ ቦታ ወስጄ አስቀምጣለሁ ማድረግ ጀምሯል። ይሄ አንድ ትልቅ እርምጃ ወደፊት ነው። የኦሮሚያ መንግስት ሸኔን እየተዋጋ ነው። ብዙ ኃይል አሰልፉ። እንደዚህ የሚዋጋ ከሆነ እነሱን መደገፍ ማበረታታትና ሸኔ ተመቶ ኦሮሞም አማራም የሚኖረው በሰላም እንዲኖር ማድረግ ነው የሚቻለው ወይስ አጠቃላይ በመፈረጅ የተጀመረውን ትግልና ጥረት ማንቆላሸት?
So he's just advocating to support the Oromo region highly militarized operation against Oromo Liberation Army, which the government call it ONG Shane.
እጅግ በጣም ተፋቅረን ተዋልደን ነው ምንኖር። አንዳንዶች ቋንቋ ማይችሉትን መጣዋል ተፈናቅለው ችግር የለበትም ብሎ እና ይሄን ህዝብ ተዋህዶ እንዲኖር ይሄ ህዝብ እንዲለያይ የሚያደርገውን ኃይል ደግሞ በጋራ እንድንዋጋ አቅም መፍጠር ነው የሚሻለው ወይስ ይፈግጥ ተባብለን ይሄን ህዝብ ለሌላ ማዕበላዊ ስቃይና የሰላም እጦት ማዘጋጀት ነው የሚሻለው?
He just giving them the best alternatives to defend the Amhara people. So again, he's advocating to support the Oromo region government operation against Oromo Liberation Army. He is not calling for negotiation or dialogue, but for dismantlement of OLA.
ስቃዩ የሚያጥርበትን መንገድ እንጀምረው፣ ሰላም የሚሆንበትን መንገድ እንጀምረው። ሰላምን የሚያደፈርሱ ኃይላችን ደግሞ ህዝባዊ ከሆኑ ወገኖች ጋር ሆነን አብረን እንፋለመው የሚለውን ዓላማ ብናነግብ ጥሩ ይመስለኛል። የኛ አመራር ውጤታማነት የሚለካው የተለያዩ ስልትና ዘዴ ተጠቅመን ህዝባችን ሰላምና ደህንነቱ ማህበራዊ ረፍት እንዲያገኝ ማረጋገጥ የምንችልበትን መንገድ ካበጀነ ነው። እንደዚህ አድርገን ካላየነው አደጋው ብዙ ነው፣ መዘዙ ብዙ ነው። እኔ የተከበሩ አቶ ያንስም ያውቁታል፣ ይህን ክልል መርተዋል ከ1983 ጀምሮም ቢሆን እና አሁን ቅማንት ላይ በውስጣችን እኛ ጋም ችግር አለ። መንገድ ተዘግቷል እየተባለ ነው። 7 አመት ሆኖ አልጨረስነውም ችግሩን። እኛ ውስጥ መፈናቀል አለ። እኛ ውስጥ መፈናቀል አለ። ከኦሮሞ ብሔረሰብ ወንድሞቻችን ጋር ብዙ ችግር ነበረኩ። ማት ሰው ሙቷል፣ ተፈናቅሏል። አይተነዋል። እዚያና እዚያ ቁመን በማስጮህ ያገኘነውን ትርፍ አይተነዋል። እኔ ወደ ሰላም እንዙር ባይ ነኝ። ይሄ ነገር አይጠቅመንም ባይ ነኝ። እስካሁን በወረራ በጥቃት ያሳለፍነው መከራም ቀላል አይደለም ባይ ነኝ። የኛን ቁስል ሌላው ይረዳን። ቤኒሻንጉል ጉሙዝ ወንድማችን ነው። አማራ ጨቋኝ በዝባዥ አለመሆኑን ለማስረዳት በምንችልበት መንገድ እናስረዳ። የእኛን ቁስል እንዲረዱን እናድርግ፣ የእነሱን ቁስልም እንረዳ። እንዲህ ካልሆነ እንዴት እንግባባለን? ጽንፍ ይዘን ወጠን ለመገናኘት ትልቅ ሸለቆ ፈጥረን እንዴት ሆነን ሰላም እንፈጥራለን? እኔ ወደ ሰላሙ መንገድ እንግባ። ለምንድን ነው አማራ በተለያዩ አካባቢዎች ታጥሮ ተነጥሎ እንዲታይ የሚደረገው? ሰላማዊ ህዝብ ነን በሚለው ከወንድሞቻችን ከጉሙዝ ጋር ከወንድሞቻችን ኦሮሞ ህዝብ ጋር ኦሮሞ መንግስት ጋር አፋር መንግስት ጋር ሰላም ለማምጣት የህዝቦችን አንድነት በሚነጥሉና ብሔር ተኮር ጥቃት በሚያደርጉ ደግሞ በጋራ በመከላከልና በመፋለም የችግር ጊዜውን እናሳጥረው። በጋራ ስንሆን አንድነታችን ሲጠናከር ጠላቶቻችን ማዳከም እንችላለን፣ መምታት እንችላለን። እኛው ራሳችን ስንለያይ የለም።
Okay, so
የለም አንዴ
he's no. Excuse me, hold on.
ችግር ከተፈጠረ
If it's more than a house,
Okay, I will come back to the other two videos. So, you know, in general, it seems like a peaceful resolution for the Amhara people, a peaceful engagement with others. But the problem is he is advocating to fight against the those who have grave concern, serious issue with that country's administration. For example, Oromo Liberation Army, which is supported by the majority. If it's given the opportunity today, the Oromo people will 100%, with the exception of 1-2%, they will vote for OLA as a government in Oromia region. I'm talking about the Oromia region. So this old strategy, the same old strategy, blaming, trashing, and advocating for the militarization and forceful resolution in that country will not bring peace for Amhara or for the other ethnicities in that country. It has been tried multiple times for many generations. Ethiopia need a moment of when Abiy came to power, 2018, when peace was, in the air. Peace was everywhere. People like Oro-Amhara relationship, friendly relation, like Tana is ours. The Kero, the Oromos said, Tana is ours. And they went there to remove the weeds, very dangerous weeds, to destroy Lake Tana. That kind of environment was created in 2018 for a short period of time. That is spoiled now. So now, yes, he is looking for a peaceful resolution, a peaceful deal, a better freedom for Amhara people, stability, security for Amhara people. But that will not happen by fighting OLA or by fighting other, group with serious concern about Ethiopia. This should be the last resolution. First, the issue should come to the table, what the Oromos want, who the Oromos want to be represented by, OPDO, OLA, or other forces. Leave that choice for the Oromo people instead of advocating for military, militarization and offering your hand to fight. That will not bring peace again for the Amhara people. He is mistaken. I know he's trying to do something better for the Amhara people, because the strategies they used so far didn't bring peace, stability, didn't stop displacement of the Amhara people, didn't stop the killing of the Amhara people, because that strategy didn't work. Cross-bordering, attacking the Oromo village, destroying the Oromo lives, didn't bring peace for Amhara region. So that's really interesting talk. It got peace on the cover, but inside it is not peace. It's a different strategy to silence others. So if you understand Amharic, please watch it, the whole video. Very interesting. He covered a lot of different topics. You can get it from the Amhara TV, part 1 and part 2. So let's go to the other issues. The Prime Minister, Ethiopian government declared a ceasefire in Tigray on the ground of humanitarian aid. But so far, according to the news coming from Ethiopia, nothing happened in the Tigray region. No humanitarian aid went through. Instead, what we are witnessing from different news, the preparation by regional government, the one advocating the peace now, also by the federal government of Ethiopia, to go to war in Tigray again, to maybe genocide round 2, to carry out genocide round 2, second genocide. That is, they are saying it openly and secretively, to go to war. So the ceasefire, based on the ground of humanitarian, that was a lie. That's a cover-up to avoid U.S. resolution HR 6600 and S3199, because it's these two bills are in the pipeline. So Abiy is trying to cheat the world, the United States, saying something and doing something else. So that's the only thing. Because this is coming, they are talking this. Yes, we are open for humanitarian aid. Yes, we declare ceasefire, but nothing happened. How many days now? So that is the situation, according to the news coming from Ethiopia. They are preparing. With the Eritrean president, Amhara regional forces, Afar, and other forces. They are preparing to wage a war against Tigray region again. So that is the situation. No humanitarian aid is delivered. Nothing changed on the ground. No electricity, no water, no banking system. As I said before, I just wondering how these people are living, really. If I could have a chance, I would like to visit how these people are living without all these facilities, without water, without electricity, without banking system, without other basic medical service. It's really, that's the tough one. And that is misleading information coming from Abiy Ahmed administration to avoid HR 6600 and S3199. I think maybe in coming days, I think tomorrow, today maybe, S3199 will be in discussion, and the HR 6600 also, I think in this week. So I hope they will pass. The Ethiopian government is frustrated, very frustrated about these bills. Even they are encouraging the diaspora community to voice, their support for the government of Ethiopia and against those bills. Even the Ethiopian government threatened the United States about passing these bills. They're talking about long-time relationship will be disturbed if these two bills pass. The other thing, okay, we'll go to the other news, very short one. The first one is the Oromo Federalist Congress. As you know already, they completed their conference, the two-day conference they conducted in Finfinne or Addis Ababa. They already elected Professor Marara Guddina as the head of the president of the Oromo Federalist Congress, Johar Mohammed, and Bekkala Garba, the vice president. Johar Mohammed also got another position as an advocate for OFECO on an international stage. So that's a second position given to Johar Mohammed as a vice president, and representatives of the party as a foreign stage, the international stage. So plus so many members elected for central government, and so it was successful. And also commemorated the suffering of Oromos during the past years on that conference. Some with disability, some paralyzed due to the authorities, torture them, abuse them in jail. Some of them, paralyzed, can't speak, can't walk. So the OFECO, Oromo Federalist Congress conference, give them remembrance, appreciation, and a paid attribute for those who sacrificed for the Oromo's causes. Let's read the statement the Oromo Federalist Congress released after the two-day conference. This is it has five major points. Statement by the participants of the Second General Assembly of the Oromo Federalist Congress. We, the participant in the Second Convention of the Oromo Federalist Congress, OFC, held March 17 to 18, 2022, in Finfinne, have deliberated on various issues concerning our party and the country. Having considered the struggle the Oromo have waged for half a century assessed the progress of OFC has made in the last 25 years, evaluated the success and the failure of the process of change in the last 4 years, and deliberated on the challenges that have befallen our country and our people. We have formulated a strategy and a direction for our party's struggle in the coming years. At the end of our convention, we have issued the following statement. 1. We had hoped that the change that the Oromo, Qeerroo, and the Qarree brought with their sacrifices would transition our country to a new dispensation of democracy and peace. Unfortunately, the transition has been scattered. As a result, the hope of democratic transition has now given way to despair, civil war, and the specter of disintegration. This has deeply saddened us. The mistakes of the last 4 years and the negative consequences that followed testify that to save the country from falling apart, returning our country to the path of building a democratic multinational state is a choice without alternative. Even though we paid a high price for it, the turn of events has vindicated the correctness of the political stand our party and the leadership took. 2. We are deeply disturbed by the civil war of the last 3 years that has claimed the lives of innocent, destroyed properties, and violated the dignity of citizens. We welcome the government's decision to shift its approach from beating the drumbeats of war to seeking a peaceful solution to the civil war. We call on both the federal government and the Tigray regional government to move from the rhetoric of peacemaking and immediately reach an agreement for the cessation of hostilities to allow unfettered humanitarian access and commit to not reignite the conflict. 3. Even though we are heartened by the effort to end the conflict in the northern part of the country, we are disappointed that the civil war that has been waged in Oromia for more than 3 years has not received the attention it deserves. Therefore, we urge the federal government to commit without delay to ending the conflict with the Oromo Liberation Army, OLA, through peaceful means. In the same way, it extends an olive branch to the Tigray region. We understand that it is impossible to guarantee peace and stability in Ethiopia without an Oromia that is at peace. 4. Our party has been imploring the government to convene a national dialogue to resolve the very political differences that led to the ongoing civil war. No one bothered to heed our counsel. Today, after thousands of lives had been lost and the properties worth millions of dollars had been destroyed, the government has considered the need for a national dialogue. Nevertheless, as we have announced in a series of press statements, the prevailing situation is not conducive for conducting a successful national dialogue in the midst of a raging civil war. We do not believe that a national dialogue that does not include all stakeholders and is led by a neutral body can resolve all outstanding issues facing the country. Yet, if there is a will and a determination to conduct a successful national dialogue, the following issues must be addressed. A. End the hostilities and reach an agreement for a permanent ceasefire in all regions of the country. I support. B. All political prisoners without preconditions, specifically the leaders of the Oromo Liberation Front, OLF, and the Oromo Federalist Congress who are currently languishing in prison must be released. 3C. The government must enter into negotiations with forces that are currently engaged in a civil war to end the conflict. Remove all legal obstacles that prevent their participation and must be invited to participate in dialogue. D. The proclamation that authorized the national dialogue must be presented by a consensus, and the commissioners leading the dialogue must be selected by the potential participants. This all didn't happen. Prosperity Party created the national dialogue and dominated the election process, ignored the call for inclusive participation. So, number 5, at the moment, millions of our fellow compatriots are displaced and exposed to the dangers of famine. We urge the Ethiopian government to work in coordination with international humanitarian organizations to deliver much needed humanitarian assistance to save lives. At the same time, we urge international humanitarian organizations to ensure that the aid they generously donate reach the victims without being embezzled or diverted to private interest. Finally, we call on our Oromo compatriots to work assiduously to strengthen their unity and their solidarity with other nations. Participants of the Second General Assembly of the Oromo Federalist Congress, March 27, 2022, Finfinne. So that is their statement at the end of the conference. So it's interesting. It's a very good statement. It calls on the international human aid organizations to deliver the aid directly to the victims instead of giving to the government, because the government may use it for the war, to wage the war, or to do for private use. So that's a good call, and also to make the national dialogue inclusive, asking for all participants, stakeholders to take part, which is also good. But I think it's too late for Prosperity Party to do anything at this time. They already determined, and the Prime Minister worries about his power. He don't want to give the power for the sake of the stability of the country. He don't care whether the people suffer through war or famine, drought, he don't care. He only care about his Arat Kilo, his power, and about his national guard and close friends to protect his, him. So he's not like his predecessor, Haile Mariam Desalegn. He's not like that. He don't want to resign despite all the bloodshed he created, despite all, illegal activities he took out in that country. He wants to remain in power until the force, huge force, come around his Arat Kilo and remove him by force. Thus, he's waiting for that moment. He cannot see the danger coming. The danger is around anyway. Okay, let's continue. This one, Ethiopia urged to uphold press freedom and release journalists. Okay, this is from the news.com. Cape Town, South Africa. Ethiopia is being urged to uphold its international commitment to the freedom of expression and the press by releasing journalists it has imprisoned. Two lawmakers in the U.S. Congress, Representative Adam Schiff of California and Mary Gay Scullion of Pennsylvania, have joined press freedom advocates in calling for the immediate release of journalist Amir Aman Kiyaro, who has been held for 4 months without charge. Kiyaro's continued detention is due to be reviewed in court on Tuesday, when the state must formally charge him or release him according to the judge in the case. But as I said before, law and order is broken for many, many years in Ethiopia. Many, many years. And Abiy is a judge now. Abiy is a police officer. He is the one arresting. He is the one releasing. Whoever he wants, he can release. Whoever he wants, he can keep them. So, no law and order in system in Ethiopia. No. This is the last one from U.S. State Department, Anthony J. Blinken, about, this is about the budget. The President's fiscal year 2023 budget. I will read it quickly. President Biden delivers deeply in the ability of U.S. global leadership to solve challenges, and the administration recognizes that diplomacy and development are vital tools for advancing U.S. interests and values. That is why the fiscal year 2023 President's budget requests $60.4 billion for the Department of State and the U.S. Agency for the International Development, USAID, $1.9 billion or 3% above the fiscal year 2022 request, and $7.4 billion or 14% above fiscal year 2021 enacted levels. With these resources, we can advance our foreign policy agenda and deliver for the American people. This budget will fund a range of Department of State and the USAID priorities, including support for Ukraine and our allies and partners in the region. The requests include $1.6 billion to support Ukraine against Russia's premeditated, unprovoked, and unjustified invasion, and assist other countries across Europe and Central Asia threatened by regional insecurity. The request provides significant assistance to our allies and partners while building their capacity to counter action from malign actors. affirming U.S. alliance and renewing U.S. international leadership. The request maintains long-standing commitment to key partners, advances peace, prosperity, and security across the Indo-Pacific and Europe, expand diplomatic and development initiatives in Africa and Asia, and positions us to effectively compete with the People's Republic of China and Russia. These requests include $4 billion to support U.S. commitment to international organizations and affirms U.S. leadership at a moment when our competitors are seeking to expand their influence. Addressing the climate crisis. The request has $2.3 billion to support U.S. leadership in addressing the existential climate crisis through diplomacy, scaled-up international climate programs that accelerate the global energy transition to net zero by 2050, support to developing countries to enhance climate resilience, and the prioritization of climate adaptation and sustainability principles in the Department and the USAID domestic and overseas facilities. Strengthening global health system. The United States is the international leadership in advancing global health outcomes that benefit the American people and the millions of others around the world. The budget requests $10.6 billion in department and the USAID funding to continue to collaborate with international partners to invest in cross-cutting health systems to prevent child and maternal deaths, combat infection disease, and control HIV/AIDS. Revitalizing alliances and partnership in the Indo-Pacific. To strengthen and modernize Americans' alliance and partnerships in vital global regions and affirm U.S. leadership in strategic competition. The requests include $1.8 billion to implement the Indo-Pacific strategy to support a free, open, connected, secure, and resilient Indo-Pacific region, and an additional $400 million for the Countering PRC Malign Influence Fund. Defending democracy globally. In response to increasing authoritarianism around the world, the request has more than $3.2 billion to advance democratization, protect universal human rights, bolster anti-corruption work, and increase programming that build inclusive, legitimate, and effective governance, consistent with the commitments made during the President's Summit for Democracy. Promoting gender equity and equality worldwide. The request includes $2.6 billion to advance gender equity and equality across a broad range of sectors, more than doubling such funding over the fiscal year 2022 budget. This entails $200 million for the Gender Equity and Equality Action GEA Fund to advance the economic security of women and girls. Revitalizing and expanding the diplomatic and development workforce. This request would equip the Department and the USAID to continue to recruit, retain, and develop a diverse, dynamic, and highly capable workforce to tackle 21st century challenges. It advances diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, support professional development opportunities, and builds capacity in critical new areas such as cyberspace and emerging technology. The budget request makes this smart investment while also reducing deficits and improving our country's long-term fiscal outlook. The State Department and the USAID are also releasing today the new 2022-2026 Joint Strategic Plan, JSP, a 4-year joint plan that serves as the primary state and the USAID strategy for advancing our foreign policy and the development priorities in both organizations. The JSP is organized around 5 goals as reflected in the request as well. Renewing US leadership and mobilizing coalitions to address the global challenges that have the greatest impact on America's security and well-being. Promoting global prosperity and shaping an international environment in which the United States can thrive. Strengthening democratic institutions, upholding universal values, and promoting human dignity. Revitalizing the diplomatic and development workforce and institutions, and serving US citizens around the world, and facilitating secure international travel. Concurrent with the publication of the Joint Strategic Plan and in support of the Foundations for Evidence-Based Policymaking Act of 2018, the Department will release the 2022 Capacity Assessment for Research, Evaluation, Statistics, and other analysis, and the Annual Evaluation Plan. The Department's first enterprise-wide learning agenda will be released in April. Together, these 3 documents will promote building evidence and learning in pursuit of the objectives detailed in the Joint Strategic Plan. So that is big money assigned for State Department and the USAID organization to promote America's interests at home and around the world. So I hope that will be used effectively. It's our tax money, and I hope they will be successful to promote, especially promoting democracy, fighting dictatorship around the world, and making America a competitive country. So that's all from the reading. I have 2 short videos to share with you, then that will be the end. Thank you again for sharing your time with me. Okay, the first one is United Nations Antonio Guterres' message for the ongoing challenge we see today, the war issue. Let's see.
All right, good morning. Secretary General, read a statement, and then we'll take a few questions. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, good morning. It's a great pleasure to be with all of you again. Today, I'm announcing that in the exercise of my good offices, I've asked Martin Griffiths, the coordinator of our humanitarian work worldwide, immediately to explore with the parties involved the possible agreements and arrangements for a humanitarian ceasefire in Ukraine. Since the beginning of the Russian invasion 1 month ago, the war has led to the senseless loss of thousands of lives, the displacement of 10 million people, mainly women and children, the systematic destruction of essential infrastructure, and skyrocketing food and energy prices worldwide. This must stop. The United Nations is doing everything in its power to support people whose lives have been overturned by the war. In the past months, beyond their support to refugee hosting countries, our humanitarian agencies and their partners have reached nearly 900,000 people, mainly in eastern Ukraine, with food, shelter, blankets, medicine, bottled water, and hygiene supplies. There are now more than 1,000 United Nations personnel in the country, working via 8 humanitarian hubs in Dnipro, Vinnytsia, Lviv, Uzhhorod, Chernivtsi, Mukachevo, Luhansk, and Donetsk. The World Food Programme and partners reached 800,000 people in the past months and are scaling up to reach 1.2 million people by mid-April. The World Health Organization and partners have reached more than 500,000 people in the most vulnerable areas with emergency health, trauma, and surgery kits. Just today, a convoy of trucks brought food, medical, and other relief supplies from WFP, WHO, UNHCR, UNICEF to Kharkiv to be delivered by our national partners to thousands of people in hard-hit areas. Our agencies and partners are procuring vital supplies and setting up pipelines for deliveries throughout Ukraine in the coming weeks. But let's be clear. The solution to this humanitarian tragedy is not humanitarian. It is political. I'm therefore appealing for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire to allow for progress in serious political negotiations aiming at reaching a peace agreement based on the principles of the United Nations Charter. A cessation of hostilities will allow essential humanitarian aid to be delivered and enable civilians to move around safely. It will save lives, prevent suffering, and protect civilians. I hope a ceasefire will also help to address the global consequences of this war, which risks compounding the deep hunger crisis in many developing countries that already lack fiscal space to invest in their recovery from the pandemic and now face soaring food and energy costs. I strongly appeal to the parties to this conflict and to the international community as a whole to work with us for peace in solidarity with the people of Ukraine and across the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary General. Can you expand a bit on what Mr. Griffiths is being asked to do, and is he going to go to the region? Is he going to try and meet with senior leaders both in Moscow and in Ukraine? And how quickly is he going to basically start this peace effort?
Well, he will immediately start. He's in Kabul today and will be coming back. And he already made some contacts. And of course, I hope that he will be able to go to both Moscow and Kiev as soon as that becomes possible. It's very important to establish a serious dialogue with both parties in relation to the possibility of this humanitarian ceasefire.
To the rest of the world, are you asking the European Union, other regional organizations?
No, I've been in close contact with several countries that have been talking to the parties at the highest level in order to explore the different forms of mediation leading to a political solution. I've been in very close contact with our Turkish friends, with Qatar, with Israel, with India, China, but also France, Germany. And it is my belief that all these efforts are essential in order to create the conditions to allow for finally this war to come to an end.
And are all those countries supporting this effort?
I hope so.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary General. You mentioned you're calling for the immediate ceasefire in your intervention. As far as you remember, the draft resolution considered last week by the Security Council contained the provisions about the negotiated ceasefire, but the Security Council failed to adopt it. Do you consider it as a mistake? And the second question, please, what are your expectations of tomorrow's humanitarian meeting by the Security Council in Ukraine?
Well, first of all, the Security Council decides whatever the Security Council decides, but that doesn't mean that anyone in the Security Council is against a negotiated ceasefire, as you mentioned. So I strongly hope that there will be goodwill from all sides in order for this ceasefire to take place. And I believe the briefing tomorrow will be a humanitarian briefing about the humanitarian situation. As far as I know, there will be elements of our humanitarian agencies that will be briefing the Security Council.
Secretary General, Russian leaders at the highest levels continue to assert their right to use nuclear weapons if and when a scenario is required for such a move. We are also seeing reports of nuclear facilities in Ukraine being targeted by strikes. Are you concerned that we are now on the cusp of either a biological conflict here or a nuclear war?
Well, I was this morning in contact with the Director General of International Atomic Energy Agency. And there will be a number of very important initiatives by IAEA in the next few days in order to guarantee the security of the nuclear facilities inside Ukraine. And I know that there is a very close contact of Rafael Grossi to both the Russian and the Ukrainian authorities on this, and he has my full support in the initiatives that will take in the next few days. On the other hand, I can't imagine the possibility of having a nuclear, a biological, or a chemical war in this scenario. That would be would be something that I believe will be avoided. It must be avoided.
Thank you. It's Pamela Fogg from CBS News, Secretary General. Is there any reason you have to believe that a ceasefire is actually being agreed to by the two sides, by Russia in particular? And is there any way the UN can enforce that if a ceasefire comes into play? Thank you.
Well, as a matter of fact, I've been hearing in different positions taken by both the Ukrainians and the Russian Federation in the motion that was presented to the Security Council in reference to a ceasefire. So I think this is the moment in which I believe it makes sense for the UN to assume the initiative. And of course, it depends on the will of the parties when a ceasefire is established to define the arrangements necessary to make the ceasefire persist.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so that's a briefing from United Nations. I hope this effort will be successful. I hope Mr. Putin will listen to it and end this conflict.
Standing out is keeping things simple, making this breakfast your most iconic meal of the day. Bite into the Frisco breakfast sandwich, part of the Frisco menu, only at Hardee's.
Advertisement, even you cannot escape it. Okay, this may be the last one.
Canadians have waited 36 years to see their men's football team reach the World Cup finals, and expectations were high in Toronto. The players had failed to book their ticket to Qatar with defeat in Costa Rica on Friday, but any nerves about another slip-up were calmed early on when Kyle Larin slotted in the opener. Canada were 2 up before half-time when Tajon Buchanan scrambled in the second. And the party could get going when 2 late goals wrapped up a convincing win. Junior Hoylett stabbed home the third before an own goal rounded off a 4-0 victory. Big celebrations at the final whistle for the team and their English coach John Herdman. Only one of the Canadian squad had been born when their country last reached the World Cup in 1986.
I think once we see that World Cup draw and we kind of see who we're going up against, that'll really put things in perspective when you realize, okay, you know what? In November, I could be going up against Harry Kane, for example, or someone like that. So it's stuff like that. I think once those kind of moments come, it'll really help put everything in perspective. At the moment, we're still kind of just in dreamland.
So many disappointments through the years, and this is the new Canada, new brotherhood, new family, new everything, you know.
And for the fans who've waited so long to see their team play in the finals, a moment to savour and time to plan their trip.
To make it to Qatar now and see the resurgence, and now here it is, the whole building smells like sulfur because fireworks are going off everywhere.
We're going to Qatar!
Canada were ranked 94th in the world when Coach Herdman took charge of the team 4 years ago. And now they'll be mixing it with the best on world football's biggest stage. Lawrence Smith, Al Jazeera.
Okay, thank you, Al Jazeera, for sharing that. And that's interesting to see. It's a big difference after 36 years to come to the world stage. For congratulations for Canada team. That's a quite achievement. So let me conclude today's presentation by saying this. The Amhara region president advocate for a a different style of operation coming forward. We should follow it carefully. I didn't like his advocacy for a total war against oil, which the government call it Onakshane, to discredit them, to demonize them, to trash them. But truly, this force represent Oromos. They are fighting for the freedom, for justice, equality in that country. They are fighting for that purpose. They are not, gangsters or just, doing the dirty job. These are a dedicated force, determined force, and fighting for the Oromia and the people living in Oromia region. So that is their objective. Whether you call them with different dirty names will not resolve that country's conflict. And Amhara region will not get peace by advocating for total war against Oromos. These people, these forces represent Oromos, and they have been fighting for generations. Some of them gave up and joined the Prosperity Party for finance and political gains. But these forces are determined for true democracy, justice, and freedom. So your strategy is, questionable. I appreciate the challenge you give them, the Amhara region forces, the Fannos, Amhara militia, those crossing into Benishangul, crossing into Oromia region and doing the dirty jobs, those who are burning human beings, those who are calling for roasting human flesh and eat. That's a good call. It's a good call because such action didn't bring peace for that region. So that's a good call. But your call for total war against those concerned citizens, concerned forces in Ethiopia will not acceptable. And you will not be successful in that matter. So we need an inclusive dialogue, inclusive discussion about that country and the future of Ethiopians. So the other one is the global community also should not be misled by Prime Minister Abiy again and again. They should not be lied again and again. This guy is a liar. He's a mischief, and he is still playing around, saying something and doing something. now he's preparing for total war, training his armed forces in all training sectors, spending money, buying weapons. So he's doing this, and in another way, try to cheat the world. He's saying something peaceful, but nothing happening. So the world should pay attention and pass those bills. These bills are very strong. He's scared of those bills. And if those two bills pass, he will be paralyzed. He will be forced to be removed from power. He cannot play on Ethiopians' brain and mind and, saying whatever he want to say, like, I am the one giving you a rain. I have the power to give you a rain. He's saying all kind of stupid stuff because he got the security around him. He got the federal police, the justice system, who are servant to his interest. So he can say whatever he want to do. He can say he trash Ethiopians, he belittle them, lie to them without any accountability. So these all are temporary. He will be accounted for all this bloodshed and for all displacement and the burning of that country. So that's all I'm gonna say, and I hope Ukraine effort peace talk will be successful, and this war will be come to an end. So thank you again for sharing your time with me. Please subscribe to my channel, like my video, share it, and thank you again. And I will be back with other news updates. Be safe and so long.